I think we're live at long last, exactly on time at 6:07 p.m. as scheduled. Uh, that was nerve-wracking. That was sorry about that, world. Um, People join late all the time, but usually not the host. But this time it was just beyond our control. Hi, everybody. This is Share in the Chair, Sunshine Cathedral's midweek interview program where I, Senior Minister Darrell Watkins, interview religious leaders from all over. We've had a Jewish rabbi, we've had a Muslim imam, last week had an angelologist. We have a lot of New Thought people, of course, and including tonight. So with us is the Reverend Candice Gee, who is a financial guru, goddess, financial planner, help you be a moneymaker kind of person. In fact, teaches, and we're going to talk about that later, a prosperity course. I forget, it's called Prosperity from Within or Prosperity Leaking Out, or she's going to tell us all about it. She's going to tell us. And then she's also one of the ministers at a pretty famous church, pretty huge church in Culver City, Agape International Spiritual Center, founded by Michael Beckwith. If you don't know him from anything else, you know him from The Secret, that film. So that's our guest tonight. And plus, I know her 100 years, and I like her, so you're going to like her because she's fabulous. So welcome, Reverend Candice.
Thank you, Darrell. Happy to be here.
I want to just ask you, because so many things, because sometimes we talk about gay stuff, and sometimes we talk about prosperity stuff, and sometimes we talk about our various organizations, because you come to everything, INTA, Divine Science, Revelation, Panorama of Truth, you go to everything. And so we can talk about those things, but tonight I had some very specific things I wanted to talk about. And first of all, I have a bit of an accent, you have a bit of an accent, because we're both from a part of the world that have these accents. And we were from a part of the world where if you weren't fundamentalist, 75% of the people that you knew were. Like fundamentalist was just part of the air that we breathed. Now, you're a practitioner and a minister on the staff of a church where the senior minister is part of The Secret, part of a movement. That's a long road from fundamentalism. And so why don't you tell us about that road? How did you find New Thought and come to embrace it?
Well, at the time that I found New Thought, it was really through a women's group initially that my sister had invited me to back in, I think, 1992 or 3. And I had already been disaffected by religion and the religion I was raised in. In fact, I went through a period when I left the church of being an atheist and then an agnostic. But I was still searching. And then I tried MCC, and I had been to a variety of different churches, and I wound up going to this women's group with my sister, and I met this wonderful, wonderful woman who was an RSI minister. They called it RSI then, Religious Science International, and she was doing this group, and I was absolutely fascinated by what she was saying, and I was open, at that point in my life. And I went to that for several months, probably 4 or 5 months before I decided to go see her for a private counseling session. And I remember that as if it were yesterday. That was in October of 1993. And I remember it because I went in there to tell her about all of my woes and about how I had been kicked out of this and that for being a lesbian, and just you name it, it was like with violin strings. And she sat there very patiently listening, and at one point, probably 20 minutes into it, she just looked at me with the most love in her eyes that I just felt her radiating it, and she said to me, well, you can forgive yourself now. And I said, no, you don't understand, they did that to me.
Yeah.
And she said, but it's okay. It's all right, but you can forgive yourself. And the second time she said it, I had this, I had a definitely reaction. It was really a paradigm shift, like a 360 paradigm shift where I just had an awakening. And it was profound for me. I remember leaving that session and driving around in my car sort of aimlessly to nowhere for a couple of hours. And that's really was my beginning. It was through a person, I should say. And then several months after that, she says, there's this great guy and you've got to go hear him. His name is Michael Beckwith. And that was, by then, at that point, that was, I think, March of 1994. And that's when I first set foot into the Agape International Spiritual Center.
And so your experience, other than we're all sort of ecumenical and we all play with each other, but your tradition, your practice has always sort of been in the religious science then sort of tradition.
Yes, that's right. Since I've been in New Thought, yes.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure that I knew that. The it was a UCRS minister who I credit as saving my life actually. People, and we're using these. Nobody knows what we're talking about. They don't even exist anymore. These things they merged and changed their name, and it's, now it's CSL. But the first of all, I should probably tell people we're talking about New Thought. Now, what is that? New Thought. Most of our people watch regularly, you get it. But maybe this is your first time. And New Thought is already an old verbiage for an even older philosophy, but it became a new movement in the 19th century. And it began as a healing movement. Back when medicine was not very reliable or very advanced. And so people were trying to get well, or sometimes just survive horrible conditions, and without surgeries that would almost certainly kill you in those days, or medicines that weren't as tested, could be toxic. And so how could you improve your health? And they realized that attitude has a lot to do with it, and that attitude is something you can change. Attitude is something you can build, and there are techniques. And so with denials and affirmations and visualization, that you can actually choose what you focus on, and what you focus on you tend to drift toward or attract. And so, and then they realized, well, if this works for healing, maybe this works for career success, for relationships, for whatever. And so, and then as happens, whenever a group of these people got together and started talking about it and getting some results, they're like, oh, let's codify this. Let's decide who's in and who's out. Let's make some rules. Let's ordain people. Let's have our own church about it. And then suddenly there was unity in religious science and homes of truth and church of truth and divine science and on and on. But and then a lot of those ideas permeated. There was a New Thought group called Jewish Science, and a lot of those ideas permeated Reform Judaism, and a lot of New Thought ideas have permeated progressive Christianity, and also something called Word of Faith, which is a sort of a Pentecostal thing. Not the theology of oneness, but the you can use your mind to have improvement. And then, of course, Peel's Power of Positive Thinking. That was in a traditional Protestant church, and yet he brought a lot of New Thought ideas right into the mainstream. So, so that's what New Thought is for new folks. And you grew up in was it Mississippi?
I wasn't raised there, but I was born there, and my early few years was in the state of Texas.
Okay.
But it's
another hotbed of progressivism.
Not much difference. Yeah. It's like the first cousin of Mississippi.
Yes, a hotbed of progressivism. And then you went to what it's called the Church of Christ. Is that right? Which is a fundamental. They won't go to Baptist churches because the Baptists are too liberal. It's the Church of Christ.
That's
and right. So, and then in that environment, did you know that you were lesbian or same gender loving, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you know that you know who you are, and you're hearing constantly that who you are is not acceptable. They probably don't know they're talking to you about you, but still you're hearing it, and still it hurts. And yeah. And did at some point you share with someone your truth? And was that pretty at all?
Yeah, I eventually shared it with my mother. I had to, because there was stuff going on in my life. And she wasn't happy about it. But, in hindsight, both my parents are passed on now. She was a buffer for between myself and my father, who, I mean, in the Church of Christ, I mean, homosexuality is akin to murder almost. It's like
Yeah.
right behind it. So I look now that I look back on it. I mean, I have a love for learning the basic right from wrong and the good stuff that church taught me. But it did a lot of damage as well. So I was certainly ready to be done with it by the time I was about 21.
Yes. So we were talking about in the New Thought tradition, this sort of religious science view of it or experience of it. Some of the pioneers had either a mystical experience or they had a profound healing of some sort of their own. The Fillmores had a healing. Melinda Kramer, the founder of Divine Science, she had a healing. Also, Nona Brooks, one of the early pioneers of Divine Science. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, he found it by reason and research. He found he sort of intellectualized his way into the philosophy, and that school of thought within the broader umbrella is still kind of a grab your toolbox and let's just fix it kind of philosophy. And so people think of them as the manifestors, as the demonstrators. In fact, I heard someone recently on this show say, unity are the lovers, and divine science, they're the omnipresence people, but religious science, they're the manifestors. And those are, if you're gonna put us in boxes, those are as good as any. But I think people forget that, yeah, there is love, so much love that can come from any of the traditions. And it was a religious science minister who told me one day when I had a disturbing diagnosis. And of course, I was trying to not be afraid because, fear is energy, and where attention goes, energy flows. And at the same time, I feel the panic. It's in there. I'm trying to keep a lid on it, but it's there. And I go to a religious science minister I'd gone to for spiritual counseling before. I'd gone to her classes. She was just a wonderful, wonderful person. And so when I tell her that, and I think she's going to break into tears because she loves me, or maybe she's going to give me a big old granny hug, or she's, or she's going to commiserate with me, or, say, or tell me that, okay, that's okay, that we're going to do these steps to a miracle and then it's all going to be fine. Like she's going to give me something that validates the problem. And when I told her the diagnosis, her response was immediate. She said, "Oh, darling, that's just information." Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but those words and the way she said it snapped me out of the fear.
Yes.
And I knew immediately what I was going to do. And I knew immediately how I was going to contextualize this. And I think it saved my life. Now, when I tell that story, people say, that's a terrible thing to say. No, I think it saved my life. It was very loving. So, so we should probably not get too hung up on our judgments on even what love looks like. One of the most loving things anyone ever said to me was not at all dismissive. It was a gentle reminder that this was information, this was data, and I had a lot of choices as to what I was going to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's New Thought at its best, I think. It was love. It did not give a lot of credence to the fear. It was present. It was really, really good. Well, I was going to ask you about the principles because I didn't know the sort of the spiritual principles of agape, but I imagine they're similar to the principles of the other New Thought organizations. So since we're sort of already on this thread of gay stuff, what do you have to say to gay people? And I mean, first of all, there's a big segment of gay people that they are completely non-religious because religion was weaponized against them, and they don't want to play with religion because it triggers them. Religion means abuse. Religion means hate. Religion means shame, and they've moved past that. There's another group that have stayed in it, and so they sort of defend the weirdness or they ignore the weirdness. There's other people who found, like us, who found a different way to be religious. That's all affirming and God is love, and so we found a different way. And then there are people out there that they're just hurting and they're trying to find their way. Am I ditching it? Am I learning to live with it, or am I finding a new version of it? And for those people who are just hurting and looking, and religion has not really maybe been their good friend, what do you have for them? What would you say to them?
Well, I want to start by saying that I don't consider myself to be a religious person. I
Ta-da!
don't. Um, religion has a function. It's important. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I think you know, for me, spiritual practice, spirituality is much larger topic because it's principle based. Um, even though religion in its pure form is as well. And with what you were just saying a moment ago about New Thought in general, for me, and being under the tutelage of a person like Michael Beckwith for so many years, I mean, I've been in the community for 26 years, his love ethic is so strong, and that's been the kind of the foundation. And I believe that that is the foundation, at least for me, of what agape is all about. And that as you have a high love ethic, that's what you have to come to inside of yourself, especially for people who have been put down and downtrodden and treated like the worm of the dust and the wretch undone, like I was, because I was very damaged by traditional religion. But I always knew there was something more. And so I would say to people to get to really be in touch with yourself, and don't listen to any of that because it's a lie. There's no way that you can be separated from the thing that's made you out of itself. And I believe that that thing is love. And I believe that. To me, I say God is love, but I also believe that love is God. Love is God for me. It is the only thing I'm willing to worship and adore and try to be in and practice. And that's it for me. So that's what I would say to, first of all, you have to turn your attention away from that stuff. It's a discipline. You have to turn your mind away from garbage, and really listen to your heart, because your heart is not going to lead you astray. And for people that have, gay and lesbian, trans, the LGBTQ plus community who have been put down so much, we've got to come into an understanding of who we are fundamentally, which is spirit, which is love. And once you do that, it's like that other stuff, you still have challenges in life, but it's different because you know what it is for you. You know what you're about. And that's what I'm about. So I'm strong in it. I don't care what people say about me. I do not care. I'm not in popularity contests. I'm here to live my life, who I am, what I'm about. And I'm about love with a big heart for everybody, including the people that I do not like and have high dislike for. I do pray for them and I love them anyway at a soul level, because I really don't think it's intelligent to do damage to myself by hating, and hate is poison. So love.
Well, for a non-religious person, that's some damn good preaching. That, that's some good preaching right there. Um, we're gonna get, this is what I'm gonna get in the next 2 or 3 days as people discover this episode, because I get it every week. I just look every week for this week's the troll of the week, telling me how we are leading people to perdition with all this ridiculous love talk. All of all of this God is love and God is everywhere, and we're all part of God, and there's not a spot where God is not. And someone is going to be very annoyed by that, because every week someone is very annoyed by that. Can you help me understand why that is? That the people we grew up around, the kind of religion we grew up around, is still strong. In fact, their proselytizing efforts globally has made that version of Christianity pretty dominant around the world. It does not look anything like the Jesus movement of the first couple hundred years, but it has become that, just angry, and the good news is about punishing God, who's going to punish people because of who they love, how they love, what they believe. And a belief is just a well-rehearsed opinion. I just can't believe that anyone's in trouble because of their opinion.
Yeah.
Or even if God was anthropomorphic, like God to me is a presence and a power, not a person. Um, Christ is a principle, not a person. I see that principle in the person of Jesus, so that I, can emulate that.
Yeah.
But but even if God for me were a person and was like a parent, even a strict parent, what loving parent punishes any of her children forever or
That's right.
abandons them forever? So even if you were going to be grounded for a minute, even if you were going to be scolded for a minute, even if your allowance is going to be taken away, for a minute, eventually it's restored.
Yes.
So who is this loving God who's out to get you because you didn't hold a certain opinion, or because you were constructed in a way, your brain was wired in a way that the person that you loved would or would not have a Y chromosome? Like it's just so silly and ridiculous to me, and yet people live their whole lives not only angry about it, but making sure other people are angry or scared or afraid because of it. And so, how does that become the religion that we embrace and don't let go? I understand why people reject that religion and say, well, then religion must be for crazy people. But that almost makes more sense to me than the people who didn't challenge it or give it up or try to find a better, a kinder, gentler version of it.
Mm-hmm.
What's with the hate and the anger and the fear that people worship? Those golden calves that they worship.
People will unite in their animosity when they want to control. That teaching is fear based. It's not love based. Jesus had a love ethic. That's what he was about. He was about inclusion. He was about acceptance, and he would, as you know, gave his lessons about the do's and the don'ts. But the don'ts were more like about don't hate than they were don't be this way or that way. So I completely reject that theology, whole souled, burn me at the stake. I'm not going for that nonsense because, first of all, I do not believe that heaven, and we don't teach a new thought that heaven and hell are destination points along the way. And but I think people do it out of fear. They don't want to go to a bad place. And just the whole idea of the theology that that your loving parent would send you to a bad place for who you are. Honestly, Darrell, it's ridiculous to me. It's very kindergartenish. I'm not here to put down the people that are in that. I just reject the theology because it's not empowering. It doesn't lift you. And if love, love is the transformative agent. We know that when we connect to it, our life will change. We will open. We're more receptive. We can grow. Things can happen. But when you're in that other, there's none of that. And so, knock yourself out, have a party. God bless you. And I mean it. God bless you.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in that. And, that's what I yearn for with our community and other communities that have been put down for years, is that we come into an understanding of who we are fundamentally, spiritually first, that we're made out of love, and that we can walk in that and march in that, like the people that have done that before us, who've shown us that that is the way, like Dr. King and others, like my leader, Michael Beckwith, like you, who have a highly developed love ethic. It doesn't mean we don't have upset with the stuff that's going on in the world, but those are experiences. But at our fundamental nature, we are made from love, and we're here to give it, to receive it, to shine it, and to share it. And, the angry thing never worked for me. And I would add that scripture, people just use it piecemeal. They just hurl out the scripture so they can be right while they don't practice all of the rest of it. So how can you hate people when Jesus said God is love, and if you don't love, you don't really know God. So how, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
One of my spiritual teachers is my black lab, and she shows me daily what love looks like. And there's no conditions, and there's no it's just freely given. And if I miss the opportunity to notice it, she's not going to get offended and never offer it again. She comes right back and here's some more love.
Yeah.
And I just really insist that God be as good as my black lab. I'm just going to demand
Yeah.
that God be as good as my black lab. And if not, then luckily I'm dyslexic and dog can look like God to me. And you know, like that, it's love. It's love. And yeah, I just need God to be as good as Bella, my sweet Bella, who loves me and who, you know, when I walk out of this room, she's on the other side of this door. When she sees me, it's going to be like the best moment of her day is to lay eyes on me, which she just done 20 minutes ago. But she's just going to light up when she sees me, and we're going to hug and we're going to play. And that has to be God. That just has to be God.
Well,
Now,
that's
sometimes
it.
should be anything else.
That's right, because it's a presence, and in that relationship that you have with your with Bella is love. There's reciprocity going on. You feel better. You feel better about it.
I
Bella
feel
feels
better
better
just telling
about
you
it.
the story about it. I
Right.
already feel better.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, because we only have about 6 minutes left, 6, 7 minutes. And so let me ask you this, because this is, well, obviously love and liberation are also your expertise, but you're also a financial expert. So, and this, I mean, GDP down by like Great Depression levels, unemployment double digit again, trillions of dollars deficit. Um, it's and this is just information, but it is the information we're dealing with right now. And you know, the world is not 100% back on track. Uh, New Zealand was like COVID free for 30 days or 6 days, whatever. The minute NPR reports that they had 4 cases. I mean, it's just right. It's just crazy. And so this is an uncertain time, and uncertainty makes us anxious. And and in the U.S. we don't live in the U.S. we have a bias against uh, government care for for people. We think socialism is a bad word, um, though in the first century the word for it was the gospel. But anyway, that's another discussion. But it's so we have a bias where we will where if we could and decide to make sure no one's going to go hungry, no one's going to miss their medicine or lose their home. If we did that, we would do it begrudgingly and probably not forever. Uh, and we're not doing it anyway. So people are anxious. People are anxious, and yet once again, this is information, and we
Yes.
probably have some choices as to what we do with it. And and you're, you know, you're the prosperity from the inside out lady. So give us something right now. Give us something to chew on. Some hope.
It is from the inside out. That's why it's titled that. Prosperity is so much more than money, but it includes money, but it's so much more than money. And you are rich. I am a rich woman, and it doesn't mean that I have millions of dollars, but I have so much love that I give and share and receive. I've got a solid group of, you know, friends, colleagues, family members. I try to bless people consciously. I have a gratitude journal. There's so many ways to understand how rich you are, you know, and even in the, you know, you have to start there, because let me tell you something. I have been around people with tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars for the last 25 years, and they're not all happy. It will not fix you. It will not. It's an illusion. It's illusory. I've also been around multimillionaires who are conscious, who are enjoy, who are happy, who share, who treat people with dignity and respect and worth. So I've really seen a lot in my, you know, my time in this work. But it's all about, you know, to me, the emotional underpinnings of what drives us. So if we don't clean ourselves out and look at everything that is good about our life, that's a practice. That's a practice. What are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? What do you do well? What is it that you do well? You know, everybody does something well. And we want to start with that first, you know, and then ask questions. You know, you ask the right question, you get the right answer. But if you don't ask the right question, you know, like why, you're not going to get a right answer. It's like, what's trying to happen here? What wants to emerge? What do I need to do in myself to allow this to happen? And so it is a very trying time for everybody. Even my clients who have plenty of money, they're concerned. And I just remind them of that truth, because believe me, money's not going to fix it. You can look at people, even out in our news and in the world, that have had billions and $600 million, $1 billion, and they're miserable souls. I mean, I say miserable, they're poor in spirit because they don't practice anything decent. They're just greedy and they hoard and they self-aggrandize or whatever they're doing. So it's certainly not about money, but it is important. So, what can I do, in the human sense? You start with that, but also you use wisdom. God gave you, love gives you wisdom. You don't go out right now if you don't have extra funds and just buy things that are mindless. And I will tell you that also in my work, I've seen it over and over again where I really see the underbelly of what people are actually doing with their money, not what they talk about. I see it and I know, and that would be a whole other discussion for another time. So oftentimes what we say does not match up with what we're doing with our behavior. So it's something that we want to look at in ourselves with love and make the corrections, and then, again, whether it's, your prosperity is not going to come from the government. It's not going to come from the private sector or capitalism, it's got to come from you, from what you have inside of you, and let that out into the expression that is your life. That's what I believe. First and foremost, your relationship with love is what's going to order you. And that, I rely on you. That's first. Not my brain, but my heart.
Wow, we've covered fundamentalism, being gay, New Thought, prosperity. So I've only got one question left for you. This is the easy one. This is the one we always end on, and I love the many, many ways that truth reveals itself as this question is answered. What happens when we die?
Oh, we change clothes.
That is so Ernest Holmes.
But you get to wear a different, we're a body of consciousness, right? We're in a suit called a body. It's going to go at some point. Everybody's does. Nobody's going to, but what we are is consciousness. I don't think that doesn't die. It never dies. So what we do here, what we're about, that goes with us. If you're in misery now, take it with you. If you're in joy now, you take that. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important to be conscious about what you're about, what you think, how you feel, your actions, your reactions, all of it are very, very important, because that's that's like building up the currency, if you will, to go into your next suit that you're in. And I would rather go into that suit with some joy and a sense that I tried to practice what I say, which is to be a place of love and acceptance and compassion, than being the opposite of that, and then ask the person.
So if I want to spend the next experience in a joy suit, it serves me to start being joyful now.
That's right. That's right.
That's good news. I like that. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Candice, for sharing with us. And I've had a good time, and that's what I care about.
Me too. Anything, I absolutely love you, and I love the work that you're doing there at Sunshine Cathedral, which is such an important space for people, and I just can't say enough.
Thank you so much. And tonight you're a big part of it. So God bless you. We'll do it again.
Okay.